In the spirit of the season, what gift would you give to the Silver and Black? I'll tell you mine and more coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for Wednesday, December 25th, 2024. It's Christmas, baby. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you, whether you're catching us wherever you find your favorite podcast or if you're checking us out on YouTube. If you're checking us out on YouTube, you know we appreciate that. The show grows each and every day, well over 16,000 subscriptions, and that's major. That's because of my man Ari and, of course, the support of Raider Nation. We do appreciate you. And, again, as I mentioned, my man Ari does a fantastic job behind the scenes each and every day, making sure we're looking good and sounding good. We shout him out. We appreciate him. We could not do this without him. So big ups to Ari. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. I'm on Twitter as well, at your boy Q254. And you can always check out the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line if you want to be a part of the show, 707-654-4693. We got plenty of feedback to get to, so your calls and texts will close out the show. That's coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2. We're going to have a little bit of fun. Why not, right? It is the holiday season. You know what it is. It's December 25th. You're looking at the calendar. A lot of people are off. A lot of folks are at home with the family and, respecting the season and understanding the reason for the season. However you get down and however you celebrate, whatever the case may be, if you celebrate, it is all good. If you don't, that is all good as well. There's no judgment here in this zone on the Locked On Raiders podcast. But in the theory, in the spirit of gift giving, we're going to gift, or at least I'm going to gift the Raiders something in segment number 2. I'm going to gift them one of the gift that I would give them, right? What am I representing to the Silver and Black? I'll tell you all about that. I'll break it down, have a little fun with it, right? It's something I did on my radio show on Christmas Eve and had a lot of fun, so I thought I can carry that over to today's show again, a day that a lot of folks will tune in and maybe some folks won't tune in. Maybe you'll check it out coming up on Thursday. But either way, we'll have some fun in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, news and notes of the day. We'll jump right into it after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. And it's never too late to jump into the season with a big return on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $250 in bonus bets. That's right, $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Of course, I'll tell you a lot more about them later on in the show, but there's not a lot of accolades that the Raiders have received this season. Obviously, we've been tracking Brock Bowers and what he's bringing to the table and what he's on the cusp of doing, the records he's about to break. Of course, Jacoby Myers is not too far away from 1,000 yards. That would be a hell of an accomplishment, something that I do believe that he can achieve. It'll be the first time he does that in his career. We always talk about Max Crosby and whatever goals he's trying to reach. There hasn't been a whole lot of acknowledgement, though, from the National Football League, just from what individual players have done for the Raiders outside of Brock Bowers. He's the guy who, if anyone's going to get recognition, it'd be him until this week. Isaiah Palamau, shout out to him, the young safety. Remember the guy that was an undrafted free agent out of USC, a guy that just hung around the team for a while and continues to get on the field. And with the injury to Marcus Epps, tearing his ACL, he's had to be the full-time starter at the safety position alongside Trayvon Merrick. And, when he got that opportunity, I said, hey, he's a guy that's always around the ball. Every time I see him in practice, anytime you see him in preseason, whatever the case may be, you're always seeing him make plays on the ball. And it really hasn't come to fruition too much since he's been a full-time starter going in for Marcus Epps. But on Sunday against the Jaguars, he was in his bag. He actually received the AFC Defensive Player of the Week award for the performance he had. He had 9 tackles, 9, and 2 forced fumbles in the Raiders' 19-14 win over the Jaguars. His 2 forced fumbles were the most by any player in Week 16. Palamau is the first defensive back to record 9 tackles and 2 forced fumbles in a game since Week 12 in 2023. This is Palamau's first career Defensive Player of the Week award, becoming the second Raiders defensive back to earn the honor in the past 10 seasons. Yeah, you see how I slowed that down? The past 10 seasons, joining Jeff Heath back in 2020 in Week 10, and that's the game, I believe, where he had 2 interceptions in that game. So Isaiah Palamau becomes the 4th former USC defensive back to win Defensive Player of the Week in the past 20 seasons. joining Pro Football Hall of Famer Troy Polamalu, who was a 6-time winner, Nikel Roby Coleman, who did it week 5 in 2016, and Terrell Thomas, who did it week 8 in 2013. And, of course, he's got the family ties with Troy Polamalu, longtime Pittsburgh Steeler, the HOFer, the Hall of Famer. But Isaiah Polamalu, he's starting to come into his own. He's seeming like he's getting more comfortable out there. I know it's the end of the season. I know there's only 2 more games, but he's a guy to look forward to. He's under contract for another year. He's a guy that looks like he could really build off the experience and the playing time that he received this year due to the injury to Marcus Epps. And after that performance on Sunday, we had an opportunity to catch up with him in the Raiders locker room. I know Hondo Carpenter was part of this conversation. I was part of this conversation, and a few others were part of this conversation, just kind of picking the brain of Isaiah Polamalu and seeing what he's seeing out there on the field as that guy at the safety position who's now out there making plays. Here's that conversation from the Raiders locker room Sunday following the game.
Duron Harmon, he told me, you build confidence through your preparation, and that always stuck with me because, I always dealt with confidence issues coming out of college, so that was really big for me to just, all right, if I want to build my confidence up, then I have to really study. I have to know this defense in and out. I have to know where everybody's supposed to be, and I take pride in that. So, and a lot of it comes from experience as well, just being out there, seeing stuff like, a lot of stuff as a rookie wouldn't see, I'm seeing things that are a little bit, it's just slowing down. The game is slowing down. So
I've heard 2 things about you I've got to ask you. Number one, I'm hearing in practice, you're starting to move guys. You're starting to put guys in position. You've really found it, not just the smack talking we just talked about, but you've found your voice in practice. You got to tell me about that.
Yeah, and I think it helps when the coach backs you up as well. PG kind of put me in that position where, if I was to say something, I have the full support of the staff, which, means a lot. But, like I said before, when, Epps went down, I want to step in and I want to fill that void. I want to make sure that there's no mishaps, no miscues that happen because of me, and I take pride of that, of knowing the defense like I was talking about and understanding where we're vulnerable at and understanding who I'm talking to as well.
Lastly, for me, IPM, someone in the organization told me you always watched film, you always put the effort, but now you've learned how to watch film. You have to explain, what does that mean? You always had the want to, but now you have the know-how to.
Yeah. Before I used to just turn on the film and just watch it, blindly. There's so much information coming at you and, you're not really taking what's really going on, and with the help of the coaches and some of the guys on the team, like, they're really breaking it down. All right, when they're in 2x2, back away, option here, just little things that can help you play a little bit faster. And especially when you know what you're supposed to do, you're not thinking about what's my job. Now I can understand how they're trying to attack us.
The last 2 weeks you've played very immobile quarterbacks, right? Versus the 3 weeks prior to that, you have Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, Baker Mayfield. From a safety position, how does that change when you know that most likely they're going to stay in the pocket?
When you got guys like Pat Mahomes, Bo Nix, like you mentioned, the off-schedule plays is where we have to start worrying about that. Now we have to plaster when he scrambles. We have to find a man. Especially when we're playing somebody that's more of a pocket passer, we can read him, and it's a pure read. He's a progression guy. He's going to look this way. He doesn't like. He's going to come back to this, so we don't have to worry. He doesn't like this. He's going to start running now. And that's where the mobile quarterback is kind of has his hand. So. Makes it I'm not gonna say it's a little bit easier playing pocket passer, but our reads are a little bit easier.
Going back to watching you in practice, you always seem like you're around the ball, and that usually means you're coming up with an interception. But to be able to force fumbles like you did today and also get the ball, how big is that? And kind of what's the process of being that guy that's always Johnny on the spot?
We talk about it all the time. It's you don't know which one's going to be the knockout punch in a boxing match. So in order to find out, you have to throw them. So, we focus on that in practice, and, in the game, obviously, it's going to come true or it's not.
So is that part of the film study that you were just talking about where you kind of recognize it before it happens and it gives you a leg up?
Yeah, it's crazy because during the week we talked about it. PG said, this guy, Tank, he holds the ball low. He's going to run hard, so we have to smack him. So the next person has to come in looking for the ball, but that ball will be low.
What was their mindset? Not even your mindset, but kind of give me your POV as he's running towards you. Obviously, big guy. You're just talking about him running with the ball low. What was your mindset?
Honestly, I had to get outside of 2. That was my read, and just kind of got off the block. And then, as he was coming, I seen the ball, and I just like, just punched it. I mean, like you said, it's body blows. You never know which one's going to land, but that one, my eyes were on it. I seen the ball, and I was able to make the play.
So that was Isaiah Palomau in the Raiders locker room following the game. And it's funny, I got to shout out my guy, Will Kiss, who's Raiders PR. He's head of Raiders PR. At some point, he looked over at me. He's like, man, y'all still talking to him? So he had to come over and say, okay, all right, last question or whatever, because he actually got caught up a couple times. Usually when one guy makes himself available and you see a guy talking to him, then a few of us will go over and talk to him, and then it'll just be over. It'll be a couple minutes here and there. But you saw that was like 4 minutes of what Isaiah had to say. That was actually the second time that he talked. He talked to a group of people, then they walked away, and I believe I was talking to maybe Brock Bowers at the time, and then all of a sudden I looked over and I was like, oh, got to talk to Isaiah. I mean, he had a big-time game, and then that's when Hondo was over there talking to him as well, so I jumped in there, started talking with him. Then you look over. So he really probably gave about maybe 10 to 12 minutes of his time to the media in the locker room, and we do appreciate that. Really good stuff, but I love how the film study that he sees the film, but he understands it. I love the fact that he shouted out Duron Harmon, Harmon. He's a guy that I talked about all the time, how I thought he was a nice addition to the Raiders in the back end of that Raiders defense because he's able to line guys up. He's able to kind of explain to them what's going on. And for Isaiah to shout him out and said he was the guy who showed me how to, study film and what I was looking for, that's a big deal. Again, when he's just now getting the opportunity to be a full-time starter, and now he understands what he's seeing on film and is able to go execute it. I mean, you heard how he, executed the fumble, right? The forced fumble that the Raiders had two of. He forced both of them, and they recovered both of them. Something that the Raiders haven't done much of this whole season. But because of what he saw on film, what Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, said to him in the meetings, he was able to go out there and execute that on the field. That's a good sign of good things to come from that young player. So shout out to him, AFC Defensive Player of the Week, Isaiah Palomau of the Raiders. That's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Coming up in segment number 2, what would I gift the Raiders if I could give them anything? The organization, players, coaches, what would it be? The owner? You'll find out coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before I get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. And, well, the NFL playoffs, they're almost here. It is not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up that dub, right? You can pick players that you think will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It is a lot of fun. It is actually thrilling. And right now, believe it or not, the Raiders are a 1.5 favorite on the road this upcoming Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. Yeah, they're favored on the road. How often has that happened this season? Not too many times. Right now, visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. And obviously, you can make a whole lot more. Make every moment more of FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. It is Christmas Day. A lot of folks are exchanging gifts. Some people aren't, and that's fine, right? Whatever you choose to do with today is what you choose to do with today. I'm not mad at that at all. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a big Christmas guy. I'm not really big into big celebrations, stuff like that. Holidays really aren't my bag. Why? I don't know. It's just me. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be you. And in the spirit of the day, again, regardless how you choose to spend this day, we're going to have a little bit of fun. I did this on my radio show on Christmas Eve, and it was a hit. It was a big hit, and I thought, why not extend it to the podcast and have some fun, right, with some folks that may be sitting around the house with their family, looking at some football as NFL action. Week 17 is underway today. Maybe you don't want to watch the Chiefs and see what they're going to do against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe you'd rather listen to the podcast. Whatever the case may be, let's have some fun with it. But I threw it out there on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920. If you can give a gift, one gift to the Silver and Black, to the organization, to players, to the owner, to anyone, hell, even the fan base, the Raider Nation, what would it be? And it's funny, we had some really good answers, right? We had someone call in and say, a calming, level-headed voice and mind in the building, making important decisions. Well, guess what? That might be Tom Brady. right? I mean, again, we don't know the full extent of what Tom Brady's going to do and what kind of role he's going to play. I don't think he's going to be a day-to-day, film cruncher guy. And, again, you know what I mean? Like, I don't feel like he's going to play the role of Tom Telesco, the GM, but I do think that there's going to be a role for him as far as player personnel. Maybe that calming, level-headed voice and mind in the building that, Raider Nation was looking for on my radio show, maybe that's Tom Brady. I mentioned Jacoby Myers in segment number 1. Had someone call in. How about Jacoby Myers get a big game or two and get to that 1,000 yards? He's never got to 1,000 yards. He's about around 850, give or take a yard or two as of right now. Brock Bowers had a monster game on Sunday against Jacksonville. I'd love to see Jacoby Myers have 2 big monster games and get him over that 1,000-yard mark. He hasn't had 1,000 yards in his career. And the thing about Jacoby that I really respect, and I even asked his dad about this at the game on Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Saw him at the Torch. He's a super cool dude. And if you see him, if you're at the game and you happen to see a 16 Myers jersey, yeah, that's Pops. Pops is cooler than the other side of the pillow. He is a great dude. But I asked him, what is it about Jacoby? Why doesn't he, not that I want to see anyone out there complaining or sulking or, mad because they're not getting the rock or whatever, or acting like a diva. I don't want to see that. But with Jacoby, you never see that. Right? And he doesn't always get the targets. And there were some targets on Sunday that he should have probably received. Aiden O'Connell checked the ball down quicker instead of letting plays develop. There was a few plays that Jacoby could have, picked up some catches and got some extra yards. Look, he has goals. He's got personal goals just like everyone else does. He doesn't put them first. He doesn't sit there and say, you got to feed me because I need to get to these goals. But he has goals just like everyone else does. Right? And I can respect that. But what you see from Jacoby is you see a guy that's out there blocking. You see a guy that's out there supporting his teammates. You see a guy that's out there willing to throw a pass if he needs to, right? He was able to do that. He's done that multiple times. Like, whatever it is that you ask Jacoby, and when I say you, I mean the Raiders, ask Jacoby Myers to do, he'll do. And he never does it with any kind of attitude or whatever. He's just cool than the other side of the pillow. If the Raiders lose a game in the locker room, Jacoby, what happened? Man, we had a tough one today. I'm proud of the guys, though. They keep fighting. Like, it's never, this isn't fun. I'm angry. I'm not in a good mood. It's never like that. You never get that approach. And maybe because he was an undrafted free agent, I don't know. But I asked his pops at the game on Sunday, I said, what is it about Jacoby where he never gets like that? He said, man, he's been like that since he was 5. That's just Jacoby. That's who he is. Well done, Pops. Well done, Pops. Right? Great job. Because if he's been like that since he's been 5, that means that comes from his upbringing. So shout out to Jacoby Myers, his family, right? Because clearly they did something right? That's a 100% product of your family, your upbringing, if you've been like that since he was 5, and he is. So somebody suggested, Q, I'd like to see a couple of big games for Jacoby to close out the season to get him to that 1,000-yard mark. I'm right there. Someone else said a Robert Spillane extension. I would gift that, right, to the team and gift that to Robert Spillane, an extension. And you know what? He's earned it. He's earned that extension. I could not agree with that more. I was like, man, that's a good one as well. I'd love to see Robert Spillane get a contract extension. He's been a great addition to that Raiders defense ever since he signed that free agent deal a couple seasons ago. There was a lot of questions about him when he came into the Raiders organization, and he's answered the call each and every time. And he is the heart and soul of that defense, especially with Max out there. He's the one guy that you know is going to give you 100% and then some. Whatever he has in his body to give you, he's going to give you. So I thought that was a cool one, the Robert Spillane extension. None of those were my answers. My answer, I said give Antonio Pierce the second year of his deal with the quarterback of his choice and the offensive coordinator of his choice. I put those as a package deal. That's how you kind of, that's kind of how you get a 2-for-1 deal. When you see gifts sometime and it's like one big box and then there's a smaller box on top. That's how I thought about that. And it's all, the ribbons all together. That's how I looked at that. Quarterback of his choice, OC of his choice, right? And that's not a shot at Gardner Minshew. That's not a shot at Aiden O'Connell, but we all know that AP wanted Jaden Daniels, and we all know AP wanted Cliff Kingsbury. I would like to see, and I do believe, and I know that there's a lot of evidence that says that I'm wrong about this. I do believe Antonio Pierce is going to be a good head coach in this league. It might not be with the Raiders. It might not be, hell, he might not get another opportunity to be a head coach if he fails with the Raiders. I mean, that's just the reality of it. But there's something in me that believes he's going to be a good head coach. But he hasn't had his quarterback, and he didn't have his offensive play caller. He wanted Kingsbury. Those are facts. He wanted Jaden Daniels. Those are facts. Those are undeniable as a matter of facts, right? I don't know whose ultimate call it was for Gardner Minshew to start the season. My gut feeling tells me, because I've been around the league long enough to know that you chase the money, you follow the money sometimes. And if it's close, you go with where the money goes. So even though I know AP said it was my choice to start Gardner Minshew, it probably was with the influence of the front office saying, hey, man, we just gave this dude $15 million guaranteed. He's going to need to get some burn, right? Especially since Aiden O'Connell hasn't separated himself. But I don't know who his quarterback of choice would be. Maybe it is Aiden O'Connell. Maybe he says, you know what, I could win with that guy. Let me have him. Maybe it's a guy in the draft. Maybe it's a guy who could be a potential free agent. Maybe it's a Sam Darnold. Maybe it's a Kirk Cousins. Maybe it's another. I'm not saying specifically what quarterback it is because I don't know what his choice would be. But again, if I'm giving out the gift, and I do believe, and many people have, tried to just to hammer me because I haven't sit here and talked about AP being the worst coach in the league and you need to get rid of him and turn my back on him and say, no, you're out of there after supporting him and hoping that he got the job. I'm just not built like that. I think that he could turn into something. I think he will turn into something. Sometimes it takes patience. This organization might not have the patience, and I respect that. I know Raider Nation has shown more than enough patience, right? It's been 20 plus years since you've seen real success consistently with this team. So I get it. If you don't want to have the patience, I totally get it. Again, I tell you all the time, I'm not going to tell you who to root for or how to root. That is your choice. You've earned that. But for me and my money, I think that AP in the second year of his deal with the quarterback and OC of his choice would be the gift that I give him. I had some people hit me up and say they would give Mark Davis, they would give him a home field advantage, right? Where it was basically a blackout at Allegiant Stadium. That would be awesome, right? We all know how it is with Las Vegas. We know every team that's going to come into that stadium, whenever they get their schedule, like, hey, when are we playing in Vegas? Oh, cool. October? There. Oh, December? Oh, we're there. Great. September? Cool. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. So it's going to take a lot of winning to be able to get that. But again, for me, that was my only choice that I had. Antonio Pierce getting his second year of his deal with the quarterback of his choice and the offensive coordinator of his choice. I thought that was fair. That was my fair gift, and that was my realistic gift that could, come true if they do decide to keep him around. Now, obviously, that's up to them to decide to keep him around or not. They very well, when Black Monday comes, he could be on the outside looking in, right? We could also be talking about the Raiders and the head coaching search. And if that happens, we'll do it. I'm not going to drag my backside. I'm not going to, poke my lip out and everything and complain and say it's not fair and boo-hoo and all that. Hey, I get it, right? Performance-based business. I went on a big rant on my radio show the other day about a performance-based business. I'm in the same thing, not at the same level, not with the same kind of money on the line. But guess what? If this show stunk every day, if I didn't come to the stage and handle my business, even in days when I might not be feeling it, if I didn't do it, guess what? I'd be out. On my radio show, if I wasn't performing, wasn't putting a good product out there, guess what? Even on my bad days, I'd be out, right? And that's what it is, performance-based business, right? We can be out at any time if we don't perform up to the standard of whoever's signing our checks. That's just reality. Not everyone is in a performance-based business. Some people get in a job, and they're really comfortable. Some people get in a job and say, well, cool, I'm here for life. All I had to do is follow the rules and show up. I'm good. That's not the kind of business I'm in. That's not the kind of business the NFL is or any professional sport. It's performance-based. You could be the nicest guy, the coolest guy. You can say Raiders all you want. You can wear Air Force Ones. You could have an earring in your ear and represent half the fan base. That'd be great, right? But that don't mean that you're going to keep your job if you don't go out there and perform. So I get it, right? And so we'll see what happens at the end of the season, right? I'm done with predictions on it because I just don't know. I really don't know what direction Mark Davis and company are going to go. And that's fine. It's only a few more weeks, and then we'll know. We'll all know the answer to the riddle, right? Regardless of what you want or what you don't want, you'll know the answer to the riddle. But for me and my money, if I'm gifting the Raiders anything, I'm looking squarely at the head coach, Antonio Pierce. I'm giving him the second year of his deal with the quarterback and the offensive coordinator of his choice, whoever that may be. Guy in the building already, a draft pick, a guy that's a veteran, that's a free agent, or other. Whatever the case may be, however you come about and get it, whoever he wants, he would get if my gift were to come to fruition. That's what I got for you. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts. I'd love to hear your feedback. We'll get some more of these gifts. We'll get them on tomorrow's show, as obviously you can't chime in right now, but there's plenty of feedback to get to. We'll do it in segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, 707-654-4693. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, which is Prize Picks. And if you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. It don't matter if it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes your holiday bigger and brighter. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. When your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week, maybe it's Jared Goff that you're looking at, or Saquon Barkley. You know, he's getting close to Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record. Can he break that? Can he hit 2,000 yards? That's the guy that you could be paying a lot of attention to. All you need to do, download the Prize Picks app today. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts draft that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a text from Mountaineer Raider. Hey, Q. So about the game on Sunday, I get both sides of it. Some people wanted to tank and others, especially the players, wanted to give it all they got. I'm actually kind of happy we won and that it kind of knocked us out of drafting a quarterback. I don't think Aiden O'Connell's the answer, but I believe that the offense has too many holes to plop a rookie quarterback in the middle of it. Now, what concerns me is that the Raiders are going to Raider and end up trading the farm to get the number 1 pick. Please, for the love of God, tell me you don't think that they'll do that. LOL. Love your show, Q. I listen to it every night at work, so please keep it up and have a great holiday. That's Mountaineer Raider. Thanks for the text. Thanks for the compliments on the show. Definitely appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, there's multiple ways for the Raiders to come away with their quarterback if they, in fact, do see Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders as their franchise quarterback. I don't know where they're going to end when it comes to the draft. We don't know the draft order when it's all said and done. They could be as high as maybe 3 or 4, or they could be as low as like 10, right? There's a big range that they can be at. They might have to give up the farm if they want to trade up and go get their guy. Or they might just say, we don't want to give it all up because exactly what you said. The team's not ready anyway. So let's go ahead and continue to build. They very easily could do that. And if they do that, then Aiden O'Connell might be your starting quarterback all year next year, right? And that was another gift that someone else called and talked about on Tuesday's Raider Nation Radio 920 Unnecessary Roughness, my radio show. They said, give Aiden O'Connell all year with Scott Turner as the OC because it looks like that he fits in really well with Scott Turner. So maybe if they don't decide that they want to get their quarterback, maybe this quarterback draft is not the one that they're looking at. Maybe they're not intrigued by a Cam Ward, a Shedeur Sanders, a Jalen Milroe, a Quinn Ewers, a Carson Beck if he comes out, right? I mean, whoever's out there, a Dylan Gabriel, right? Maybe there's one of those guys they're not intrigued by. They very well easily could go with the best player available. The one thing I'll say, and the confidence that I have, Tom Telesco did a really good thing this past draft in getting Brock Bowers at number 13. He didn't panic. He didn't, worry about all these quarterbacks getting taken and all of a sudden jump up and give up the farm to go get one. He let the board come to him, let the draft come to him, and pick the best player available at the time, which was Brock Bowers. And he's arguably, if it wasn't for Jaden Daniels, the best rookie in the 2024 draft. It's just that simple. So I have a lot of confidence that Tom Telesco will do the right thing. We'll see how that plays out, but I do believe he'll do the right thing. Thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you, and happy holidays for sure. Up next, got a call from the 702, and he didn't say his name, and I hate that. I believe he's a first-time caller. He's been listening for a long time, but he had to call in when he hears the whole tanking conversation. Here's the call from the 702.
Hey, Q, first-time caller. I've been listening to your show for years now, man. You do a great job. I usually like just to sit in the background and listen, but after this last loss and some of the callers, I had to put my input in. First off to Raider Nation, everybody that listens to your show, just listen. When it comes to wins and losses and tanking versus non-tanking, this discussion should never even occur because, like some other people called upon in what you kind of reiterated, you want to win. Okay? You want to build a winning culture. I've been a Raider fan since I was a kid. And there was a brief moment I got to witness when we went to the Super Bowl and got our butts kicked. But those late 90s, early 2000s Raiders where we were actually winning. But besides that, in the last couple of decades, we have not been able to get back to a winning culture. Multiple coaches, right? No longevity in the quarterback position, right? Not a lot of identity for our team. A revolving door in the organization in general. That is not good, and it's not going to create a winning culture for your team. It's not going to be a place that players are going to want to play for and coaches are going to want to go to, period. So the whole tanking thing, it should be a dead discussion. Players want to win. People look at it each season from season to season, just what's happening right now. You have to look at the team as a long-term investment as far as the GMs are concerned, as far as the fan is concerned. You're not just worried about right now and, okay, we need to lose right now so we can get Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or whoever your player is. You have to learn, or that team needs to learn, how to win and win long-term. Look at the Chiefs. Look at the Patriots. Even teams like the Ravens and Pittsburgh that are continually winning, regardless of the people that are playing for those organizations. Okay? Chiefs, year after year, they're winning. Why is that? Well, yeah, they have Patrick Mahomes, but they've developed a winning culture. They have the right people in the building, and other people that want to play for them come because of that. Okay? If we keep losing and sucking, there's nothing that's going to change that, regardless of what player you think that is. And the draft is overrated. We screw up the draft half the time. But our last draft is an actual good example of why it doesn't matter if we have the number 1 pick.
Great call. Thanks so much. Next time, you definitely got to let me know your name, man. I don't want to call you the caller from the 702, right? Have an alias. I want you to be able to shout out your name. I know fans think about tanking. I understand it. I totally get it, right? I understand that if you end up with the number 1 overall pick, all of a sudden you're in a position of control of the draft and you can do whatever you want. You can go whatever direction you want. I get that, right? I understand the future of all that. But as you've mentioned, as I've mentioned many times, as others have mentioned, players and coaches don't care about that. Everything that they do, they're putting on film. They're putting on wax, right? So that's their resume. That's their audition for not only the Raiders, but every other team in the league. It's just like me when I go on the radio, and I say this all the time. If I'm going on the radio or do this podcast and I'm having a bad day and I just get through it just to get through it, guess what? You may be listening for the first time and say, what's all the hype about this guy? I heard he was good. This guy stinks. This guy's show is bad, right? Or if I suck it up, have a really good show because I have pride in what I do, and I'm going to give it my all every time I go out there and do a show, regardless of my actual mood that I might be in. You might think, oh, man, that guy's really good. And then you might recommend me to someone else. Or, you know what I mean? Like, you never know who's listening. Someone could change your life that's listening. Well, someone could change a player's life that's watching, right? There's a talent evaluator somewhere that's like, hey, man, even though the Raiders were 2-12, did you see the way that guy was flying around the field? Did you see the effort that he was given with a 2-12 team? Did you see that? Yeah, that's the kind of guy we need on our team. Let's go get him as a free agent. Let's go make a move for him. Let's bring him into our organization. It happens just like that, right? That's exactly what happens. So when these guys are giving it everything they all and they're trying to achieve certain goals and get there, they're doing it for multiple reasons. Their NFL lives is the main one. And coaches do the same thing, right? I mean, if this coaching staff doesn't stick around this team, I mean, it's easy to see that these guys are going to be, trying to get jobs with other staffs, regardless if they're head coaches, if they're defensive coordinators, if there's position coaches, whatever the case may be. Someone could say, man, AP didn't work out as a head coach, but man, you see those guys never quit playing for him. That guy, he had them guys going hard. Man, we can put him in a position coach. Maybe we'll put him back at linebacker coach, and he can help coach these guys up, and at least we know that they're going to be motivated flying around. Like that, you just never know. So you can't have those moments like that. You can't have, right? You can't have guys going out there and dogging it because that's a direct reflection of you if you're a coach, and it's a direct reflection of you as a player. So there's no doubt about it. They definitely don't want that scenario. But thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. And like I said, next time you call, make sure you tell me your name so I can shout you out. I do appreciate that. Up next, a text from Lone Star Raider says, hey, Q, Lone Star Raider here. How much power does Dion really have when it comes to the draft? Can he really tell teams, nope, Shedeur's not playing for you, and do those teams have to oblige? Love the show. It's been a bright spot during this bad season. That's Lone Star Raider, and I do think he has some kind of pull, especially in a draft where it's not a quarterback-rich draft. I definitely believe he has some pull. He said that he was going to suggest to certain teams not to select his son. He wasn't going to do it publicly, but he'd do it in, kind of in the back channels, which is, I think, the best way to do it. He's not going to come out and say, nope, you're not playing for the Giants. Nope, you're not playing for the Browns. Nope, you're not playing for the Patriots. No, you're not. He's not going to do that. But I do think that there's a little bit there that he has that he can say, yeah, we're not going there. And a team will have to make a decision if they want to still pull the trigger on selecting Shedeur or not. And I'm not saying he's going to do that just to, direct him to the Raiders. I'm not saying that at all. But they do have the relationship with Tom Brady, which I do think carries a lot of weight. And I do think that Antonio Pierce and Dion, well, I know that they're close. I know that Shedeur and Sandra Douglas Morgan, the president, I know that they're close. I know there's plenty of ties. Mark Davis likes Shedeur. Does that mean that they are going to go get him? No, none of that means that. I just know that there's some ties there. And maybe there is a way where Dion does a little bit of back channel navigating. I think he does have a little bit of sway where he can do that. Thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a quick call from Nate in the 626. He's calling a shout out to Raider Nation. Straight up. Here he is, Nate in the 626.
Nate from the 626. Just wanted to give a shout out to the Raider Nation. Even when we're down in the dumps, we're still showing up. Yeah, there wasn't packed out right there against the Jaguars, but we were loud, we were proud. It was legit. Still showing up. I'll see you guys there against the Chargers. Hopefully, like I said, we keep showing up, and I could only imagine what it's going to be like when we win.
Nate Dogg, thanks so much for the call. Yeah, no doubt. I say it all the time. Raider Nation continues to show up and show out each and every game, away on the road. It doesn't matter. Raider Nation deserves greatness. And at some point of the party, I believe they will get that greatness. I think Raider Nation will get rewarded at some point. I know it's been a long time. I know we've been saying that for a long time, but I just do believe that at some point it's going to turn the corner and turn the page, and Raider Nation will get rewarded for all the years of constant support and constant, just going out and fighting for your team and, cheering for your team and representing for your team, even through seasons like this past one, 3-12. That's a terrible season, and Raider Nation still shows up and shows out. We'll see you week 18 at Allegiant Stadium versus the Chargers. That'll be the last one for the 2024 season. I look forward to seeing you there at the Torch. Thanks so much for the call. Do appreciate you. And we'll close out with a pretty lengthy text from the original old school Raider, the OG. Aloha, Q. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family, or in Hawaiian, long phrase. I'm not even going to touch it. I'm not going to butcher that at all. He said, I'm a long-time listener from SoCal who now reps the 808 Raider fan club. I appreciate you being straightforward during Monday's Locked On Raiders podcast, particularly the second segment, how this affects our draft position, and the discussion about the Raiders' win over the Jaguars. I want to add a few considerations to support your argument regarding NFL players trying to secure a spot on next year's silver and black roster. One, if we can win the next two games and finish the season at 5-12, I believe retaining the current coaching staff on both sides of the ball is crucial for continuity. I suggest promoting Scott Turner from interim to offensive coordinator, as he knows and understands the player's skill set from the past 2 years. Two, while I recognize the Raiders draft stock could drop between 8 and 15, it's worth noting that Tom Telesco did select Brock Bowers at number 13, and that 4, JPJ, Glaze, Richardson, and Lobby out of the 7 draft picks are starters. I recommend fans rewatch Christian Wilkins' first interview at the facility, where he shares his reasons for wanting to join the Raiders. This perspective suggests that how we finish the season with our style of play, commitment to the process, and the will to win is a catalyst for the 2025 free agent pool to be part of this team. 4, lastly, while you favor Shedeur Sanders, I would encourage you to consider Dillon Gabriel as a later first or early second round selection. Dillon was not a Heisman Trophy candidate this year, but the quarterback leading the 12-0 Ducks to Dillon was not only a Heisman Trophy candidate this year, but the quarterback leading the 12-0 Ducks to a national championship playoff following the departure of Bo Nix. Again, happy holidays and go Raiders. That's from the original old school Raider. And thanks so much for the text, and aloha to you as well. You and yours, appreciate you. And yeah, you're right about Dillon Gabriel. I'll start from the back and work my way up. Dillon Gabriel is a good quarterback. His arm strength is okay. It's not fantastic, but he's a guy that's got some wiggle. He can get out of harm's way. And he did lead the only undefeated team in college football, right? They were the number 1 team. They actually got a terrible seeding, not seeding, but the terrible path to the national championship game. They actually got the toughest path to the college football, to the national championship. I don't understand why they're the number 1 seed, never lost a game, and they get a bye in week 1, and then they have to play either Ohio State or Tennessee, which obviously it's Ohio State. So now it's like, okay, they could be out because their path is a lot more difficult than, say, like Penn State and Boise State. Boise State has a better path to the national championship game than Oregon does, which is a shame. But yeah, he's a really good player. He's not my favorite, but he's a really good player, and I definitely respect his grind. He's been around the game for a long time, has a lot of work that he's put under his belt, like a lot of games that he's played in college football, and that's something that teams are looking for. They're not looking for the Anthony Richardsons, the 13 games started in college. They don't want that. They're looking for 25 games plus started in college football now. That's what I've heard directly from many different talent evaluators, draft evaluators. That's what teams are sending around to all the agents. Hey, we really prefer quarterbacks that have more skins on the wall, guys that have been in the trenches more, playing more in college, not the one-year wonder that's played 12 or 13 games. As far as the starters that Tom Telesco selected, Brock Bowers, stud. JPJ looks like he's going to be a stud. DJ Glaze looks like he's going to be really good. DeCam Richardson is the starter because Jacorian Bennett went down. So that was a little bit because of necessity, lack of depth. Dylan Lobby's not really a starter. He's a special teams guy, hasn't really got any burn on offensive side of the ball. But to your point, Tom Telesco did a really good job. At least we know for a matter of fact, without a shadow of doubt, the first three guys that you mentioned, Bowers, JPJ, and DJ Glaze, all starters. There's no doubt about that. As far as trying to finish off the season strong and the way that the Raiders did it and what Christian Wilkins had to say about joining the team. And that was after Miami beat the Raiders, but the Raiders gave Miami everything that they could handle last year, right? When they went to Miami. And that's when Christian Wilkins obviously paid attention and saw what they brought to the table. Obviously, the free agent money that the Raiders gave him also helped his decision on going to the silver and black. But looking forward to seeing that guy back healthy next season. He'd be a big addition to whoever's on that defensive line, whoever's on the defensive side of the ball, and anyone rocking the silver and black. But thank you so much for that text. I do appreciate you. And that's all we got time for on today's show. We will have a crossover Thursday with Ross Jackson, host of Locked On Saints. We actually recorded that on Tuesday evening, so you'll be able to check that out on Thursday. Really good stuff with Ross, giving us everything that we need to know about the Saints that are going to be Week 17 action down in the Big Easy. We'll get back to your calls and texts on Friday as we close out the week really strong and send you into the weekend, Week 17, as the Raiders only got two more of these bad boys, one on the road and one at home. So Big Mike from Niagara Falls will get your call on Friday. Text from Raider James at the 916. We'll get that text on Friday. And then 6 foot, 7 foot, 8 foot, 9. No, 6'7" from west side of Phoenix. He had a call as well. Definitely going to get him in the show too. Definitely appreciate that. Today is December 25th. I want to shout out to Ricky Henderson. He passed away on Friday. He would have been 66 years old today. My favorite athlete of all time. He's the reason why number 24 is my favorite number. He's the reason why when I played baseball, I wanted to be a leadoff hitter and play left field. He was the reason why I would hit the ball in the outfield and stop at first. I'd want to steal second, third, and even home if given the opportunity, right? I mean, just everything I wanted to do was because of Ricky Henderson as far as on the baseball diamond. He was the guy that brought swag to the game before swag was even a word, right? He did things his way. I said it before. He was Oakland, California, represented Oakland, California. The identity of the city is not there anymore. As far as I'm concerned, no Raiders, no Warriors, no A's, no Ricky, right? He just represented that community, that town. That is town business through and through. And so, today would be his 66th birthday, so I definitely want to shout him out. R.I.P. to Ricky, the greatest to ever do it as far as I'm concerned, and really just passed away way too soon, very suddenly passed away from pneumonia. Finally got confirmed on Saturday. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, however you celebrate today. If you celebrate today, I always never like to don't remember the reason for the season. I'm only here because of Jesus, right? And that's the only reason that any of us are here, right? And again, whatever you believe and whatever you don't believe, I respect that. I just know why I'm here and why I'm able to do, and I'm blessed to be able to do everything that I do. So enjoy your family, enjoy your day, enjoy Raider Nation, do what you continue to do, and we'll be back tomorrow as we roll through. You'll get the crossover edition. Until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.